I never thought I'd hear the sentence that would flip my entire world upside down. Sir, you don't own this land anymore. The man who said it wore a bright orange construction vest and held a clipboard like it made him king of the world. His workers were already unloading steel beams on the far edge of my field, their engines rumbling through the morning fog. My land, my grandfather's land, was shaking under machines I had never authorized. And before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from because this story, it's about how far people will go when they think you're powerless. My hands trembled as I approached them, the gravel crunching beneath my boots, my heart pounding so hard I felt every beat echo in my ears. I wasn't prepared for what would happen next, or how deep this deception went, or how many people were involved. I only knew one thing: something was very, very wrong on my property. The morning had started completely normal, the kind of peaceful day you don't appreciate until it's gone. My coffee was still steaming on the kitchen counter, half finished, when the first unfamiliar engine roared outside. I remember the odd smell of diesel mixed with the cool scent of wet grass drifting through the window. I thought maybe someone had taken a wrong turn, maybe a delivery truck or a lost contractor. But when I stepped out onto my porch, the ground vibrated under heavy machinery that definitely wasn't lost. I walked across the yard, the dew soaking through my slippers, and saw the massive banners on the trucks. HOA Development Phase 3. My stomach twisted because we didn't even have an HOA out here, not officially, not legally, not anything. This area was farmland, space, freedom, independence, and yet they were here like they owned every inch of it. I tried to stay calm as I reached the first worker, a tall guy with a hard hat and a smirk that irritated me instantly. "This is private land," I told him, keeping my voice steady even though my pulse was racing. He looked at me like I was an inconvenience he didn't have time for. "According to the HOA office," he said, flipping through his clipboard, "this entire parcel was approved for subdivision." He even pointed to a highlighted section like that meant something to me. I felt a wave of heat climb my neck because I knew every fence line, every boundary marker, every document tied to this place. My grandfather walked each acre with me before he passed. No one, and I mean no one, could sell or approve anything without my signature. I stepped closer, refusing to be intimidated. "Show me the authorization," I demanded as the noise around us grew louder. More trucks arrived, dust clouds rising behind them like smoke from a wildfire, and I noticed neighbors gathering along the road, watching from behind their fences. Their faces were confused, worried, whispering to each other as if my property suddenly became a crime scene. A woman in a purple sweater shouted, "Are they allowed to build here?" But the workers ignored her completely. They moved like a swarm, marking lines, placing flags, setting up boundaries. It was surreal, my land turning into a construction zone right before my eyes. The worker finally shoved a paper toward me, the edges curled from being handled too much. "This is all we need," he said, and when I glanced at it, something snapped inside me. The signature at the bottom was mine, but I had never signed it. Not once, not ever. My throat tightened as the realization hit like a punch to the chest. My name was spelled correctly. The handwriting was close, really close, but off just enough that my gut screamed it wasn't mine. A cold breeze blew across the field, but all I felt was the burn of rage building behind my ribs. "This is fake," I said quietly, but he only shrugged like he'd heard excuses like mine 1,000 times. He turned away to shout orders at his crew, dismissing me like a barking dog behind a fence. I felt eyes on me from every direction: neighbors, workers, strangers, and the humiliation stung deeper than I expected. One of the workers actually laughed as a bulldozer rolled past us, its metal tracks clanking over the soil I had grown up playing on. I stood there, frozen, incapable of moving, but my mind was spinning. If someone forged my signature, then someone high up was involved, someone who thought I'd never fight back. I pulled out my phone, snapping photos of every vehicle, every badge, every worker I could capture, even recording videos as they stomped across my field. A man in a blue vest approached, holding out his hand like he was greeting a guest at a dinner party. "You must be the previous owner," he said smoothly, and the words "previous owner" sliced through me like a blade. His handshake hovered in the air, waiting, expecting, assuming. I didn't take it. "Tell me who approved this," I said, keeping my voice from shaking through pure willpower. He smiled, the kind of smile you see on a wolf just before it bites. "The HOA, of course, it's all done, you should read the notices." My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt because I never received a single notice. Not one, and the way he said it so casual made my blood boil. I knew at that moment I was dealing with something more corrupt than simple miscommunication. Something planned, something deliberate. As more workers spread across the property, placing stakes and measuring distances like they owned the place, I backed away, my breath turning shallow. The blue-vested man talked into a walkie-talkie, eyeing me between sentences as if I was a fly buzzing around his perfect plan. I felt powerless for the first time on my own land, and that helplessness crawled under my skin like fire ants. The sky darkened with thick gray clouds, matching the heaviness in my chest. My phone buzzed nonstop with neighbors messaging. "What's happening? Did you sell? Can they do this? Why didn't you tell us?" Every message felt like a stab because they all thought I knew, like I'd agreed to this chaos. I walked back toward my house, my boots sinking slightly in the soft ground, each step heavier than the last. And then halfway to the porch, something hit me so hard mentally that I actually stopped walking. The deed, the original deed, the one no one had seen but me and my lawyer, was locked in my safe. I rushed inside, slamming the door behind me, the sound vibrating through the quiet hallway. The buzzing of machinery outside felt like it was drilling straight into my skull, each thud reminding me that strangers were tearing apart something sacred. I sprinted to my bedroom, yanking open the closet, pushing aside boxes and old coats until I reached the heavy steel safe I rarely touched. My hands shook as I typed in the code wrong once, twice, my fingers slipping because my mind was moving faster than my body could keep up. On the third try, the lock clicked open, a soft metallic sound that felt like a lifeline in the chaos. I grabbed the old brown folder, edges worn from years of storage, and flipped it open right there on the floor. The original deed was inside, crisp, untouched, undeniable. And most importantly, legally binding in a way their forged papers never could be. The first thing I checked was the parcel number, tracing the familiar digits with my thumb, feeling the indentation of the embossed seal. Same number, same description, same boundaries, nothing changed. As I read through each line, memories of my grandfather teaching me what every phrase meant flooded back, how important it was to protect this place, how easily it could be stolen if I wasn't careful. I remembered his voice, calm but firm, telling me, paper is power. And staring at that deed, I realized just how right he had been. The HOA fake documents, the workers, the arrogant supervisor, they all depended on me being ignorant, confused, overwhelmed. But they didn't expect me to have the real thing. They didn't expect me to fight. I took photos of every page, scanning them with my phone, making sure I had digital copies stored everywhere. My heart still wouldn't calm down, still hammering like I'd run a marathon, but now the fear had shifted into something sharp and cold, determination. I stood up, gripping the deed so hard the paper bent slightly, and walked back toward the front door. The sound of construction outside was louder now, hammering, shouting, engines revving, but instead of shrinking back, I felt something inside me rise. They thought I was powerless, they thought I'd back down, they thought a forged signature would scare me into silence. They were wrong. I stepped outside again, the wind whipping across my face, carrying the scent of dust and churned earth. It felt like stepping onto a battlefield. Blue-vested man noticed me immediately, raising an eyebrow as I approached with the folder tucked under my arm. "You again?" he asked, sounding annoyed, not worried. That arrogance would cost him later. I didn't respond to his snark. Instead, I pulled out the deed and held it up, letting the sunlight catch the raised seal. His expression shifted, not much but just enough for me to see a flicker of concern before he forced the smirk back onto his face. "Where did you get that?" he asked, voice quieter. "From my safe," I said, no hesitation. "The same place it's been for 22 years. His jaw twitched, a tiny twitch but enough to tell me I had hit the nerve I was aiming for. He reached for the paper, but I stepped back. "Don't even try." Workers gathered around us, watching, whispering. The same neighbors who had been confused earlier were now leaning on fences, filming, calling out questions. The crowd grew like a storm, pressure building with every passing second. I opened the deed to the signature page, pointing at my clear original handwriting. Then I pulled out the fake document from the clipboard the worker had given me and held it next to the real one. You didn't need to be a forensic analyst to see the differences. "You forged my signature," I said, loud enough for everyone around to hear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few workers stepped back, uncomfortable, suddenly unsure whether they wanted to be part of whatever was happening. The blue-vested man's expression hardened. "I don't know what game you're playing," he said, voice sharp as broken glass. I felt adrenaline spike, but I kept my voice steady. "This isn't a game, this is fraud." The word hit him like a brick. He motioned toward his team, probably hoping they'd come support him, but even they looked uneasy now. "We have permits, approvals, signatures," he started, but I cut him off. "All of which you'll show to a judge," I said, "because I'm filing for an injunction, effective immediately." More murmurs spread through the group, the tension thickening like fog. The man's face flushed with anger or panic, I couldn't tell which, and he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he hissed. I actually smiled then, a small, humorless smile. "Neither do you." Before he could reply, a new figure approached, a tall woman in a blazer, heels sinking slightly in the dirt. She carried a leather folder and moved with purpose like someone used to being obeyed. "What's going on here?" she demanded, scanning the crowd. The blue-vested man pointed at me instantly. "He's interfering with construction. He's refusing to leave." The woman turned to me with cold, calculating eyes. "Sir, this land has been legally transferred to the HOA. Your presence is obstructing active development." I held up the deed again, flipping to the embossed seal. Her eyes locked onto it, and for the first time since this nightmare started, someone from their side froze, not long, not dramatically, but enough to tell me that she recognized exactly what that seal meant. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed, but the crowd needed to hear it too. "You know this is real," I said, my voice steady even though my pulse was thundering. She didn't answer immediately, instead flipping open her own folder and scanning documents rapidly. Her forehead tightened, her jaw clenched, and she stepped closer to the blue-vested man. "Where did your team get authorization for this parcel?" she whispered harshly, but everyone around us could hear the crack forming in her confidence. His face went pale, his bravado caving in as he stammered something incoherent. Workers stopped what they were doing, the clanging and drilling slowly halting as people sensed the shift in power. Even the neighbors went silent, hanging on every word, phones out and recording all of it. The woman finally straightened her back and turned toward me, her tone more restrained now. "Sir, there seems to be a discrepancy." The understatement nearly made me laugh. A discrepancy. They had built almost 30% of a housing phase on land that wasn't theirs. 96 planned homes, millions in expected revenue, and all of it sat on a foundation of forged signatures and lies. "This project stops now," I said, and for the first time, nobody argued. The workers exchanged glances, unsure whether to pack up or wait. The blue-vested man muttered something about his supervisor, his steps quick as he moved away, but the woman grabbed his arm. "Don't go anywhere," she snapped. "Not until we verify what's going on." That was their mistake, staying, because staying meant they were present when the sheriff arrived. I had already called earlier during the chaos, and I heard the patrol car long before I saw it. The crunch of tires on gravel made everyone look toward the road as the sheriff stepped out, hand resting lightly on his belt. He walked toward me first, nodding politely. "You the property owner?" "Yes," I said, handing him the deed. He inspected it carefully, his expression shifting from neutral to stern in seconds. Then he turned to the HOA representatives. "You got matching paperwork?" The woman swallowed hard, flipping through her folder with hands that no longer looked steady. When she held out the documents, the sheriff compared both sets side by side. I watched the moment he found the forged signature, his brows knitting together, his jaw tightening. He exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale a person makes right before delivering consequences. He looked directly at the blue-vested man. "Sir, this signature doesn't match." The man stuttered, tripping over excuses like a toddler learning to walk. "It was filed through the HOA office. Maybe there was a mix-up." "A mix-up isn't felony fraud," the sheriff cut in, his tone sharp enough to draw a few gasps from the onlookers. The woman tried stepping in, but even she couldn't mask the rising panic in her voice. "We were given these documents." You assumed ownership of land you didn't verify?" the sheriff asked, eyes narrowing. "That's negligence at best, criminal conspiracy at worst." The entire site had gone dead silent except for the wind rustling through half-installed fencing. I felt the tension draining out of me, replaced by something calmer, something heavier, justice taking shape right in front of everyone. The sheriff gave the order. "Shut it down, everyone off the property until this is sorted out. And you," he pointed at the blue-vested man, "you're coming with me." The man's face drained of color. "Arrested for what?" "Forgery, trespassing, and likely more once we investigate." A ripple of shocked reactions spread through the crowd. Workers backed away, distancing themselves from the man being handcuffed. Neighbors whispered loudly, phones raised higher, capturing every second. The woman in the blazer didn't even try to defend him. She simply stood there, rigid, staring at the fake documents like they were ticking bombs. And honestly, they were, because if one signature was forged, others probably were too. Their whole project might collapse legally and financially. When the sheriff finally turned back to me, his posture softened. "You did the right thing calling us," he said. "We'll need to take statements and copies of your documents." I nodded, the weight of the last few hours finally hitting me like a tidal wave. My land was safe for now, but the emotional toll felt like a bruise spreading through my chest. The workers slowly packed their equipment, the noise fading bit by bit until the field was quiet again. The neighbors drifted away too, some stopping to pat my shoulder, others shaking their heads at the audacity of what had happened. I watched the scene unfold with a strange mix of exhaustion and relief, holding the deed tightly as if it might disappear if I loosened my grip. And while the sheriff talked through next steps, I realized just how close I came to losing everything my family had built.